Hey dudes, Chris here, back into Borderlands 3, and today let's take a look at the top 10 best weapons you can currently get in the game. Of course, we have the June 4th update that's going to drop really soon, so it's very likely that many of you are going to be preparing for that and take on the hardest challenge that's going to arrive with that update. So let's jump right into it, and as always, a thumbs up on this video would be super appreciated. I also want to give a huge shout out to Instant Gaming. Of course, they've been a part of this channel for some time now, and they've helped me organize a ton of giveaways for you guys in the past. So definitely go ahead and check them out by following the links in the description box down below. They also have some of the best prices you can find around, and there's a ton of games over there that have some really heavy discounts. Let's begin here with the SMG category and a couple of examples that I really love, to the point that I didn't even feel the need to change with anything else for the past couple of months. Now the first one is the Chaoson SMG, and arguably one of the higher damage dealers currently in the game. This drops from Captain Trond in Athena's, and it comes with some really awesome base damage. As you can see, it's really damn high, but it also comes with that secondary functionality which causes those explosive sticky shots to stick into the target when you're shooting them. Now on Mayhem 10, on a non-splash damage build like this one for Zane, I was still able to deal a ton of damage to all of these enemies and kinda shred them in just seconds. But if you want to truly make the most out of it and really make it shine, you're going to definitely want to couple this with a splash damage oriented build. One of them that works really amazing is the splash damage build for Moze using the Minesweeper class mod. And what this does is basically it makes your critical shots to also spawn another micro grenade, so you basically have those explosive sticky rounds from Chaoson, and then also the Minesweeper that goes hand in hand with that to spawn additional micro grenades on top, which basically causes this huge surge of explosions that can honestly one-shot anything, or at the very least absolutely shred even through the toughest boss. So definitely go ahead and try it like that. Now the next one is going to be the redistributor. I've been using this even more extensively since my main character now is Zane, and this works amazingly well because of that 7-shot being amped and also chaining to all nearby enemies. This is of course a drop from WoW 10 and Valkyrie squad in the Melee 1 takedown, so it is going to take some time until you get the perfect specimen, but once you get it, this coupled with that chain frost build for Zane is going to be absolutely amazing. Of course, to make it shine, this is better suited against large groups of enemies, so that you get all of those M shots to kinda bounce between targets and deal additional damage. So the more targets there are in front of you, the better there is, because you're going to deal that additional damage. But otherwise, if you just go in against a solo target, then this is going to fall pretty short since it doesn't have anything to bounce off. Let's move to the next category, which is going to be the assault rifles, and the first one doesn't even require an introduction since this is one of the highest damage dealers currently in the game. Of course, the OPQ system that drops from Joey Ultraviolet or the other mini bosses in the Revenge of the Cartels update. What makes this weapon so powerful is the fact that it deals very high damage, it has a secondary electric explosion that also deals very high damage, and a cherry on top is that couple of drones that can also be called into battle to aid you as a secondary firing mode. But otherwise, the primary damage is where it's at, and you can literally go through anything. Doesn't matter if it's a boss, it doesn't matter if it's a regular enemy, you're going to shred through everything. But the only downside of this weapon is the fact that that additional shock explosion can also kill you, since it does tend to be in the millions. Cue in the fourth weapon, and also another assault rifle. This is going to be the Monarch assault rifle, also one of my favorite weapons on the flak crit build, since it tends to, well, as you can see, shred through the bosses. Now this is a drop that you get from Kilovolt. You're going to have to kill him quite a number of times before you get this, but this kind of fully replaces the former Dictator, which was kind of functioning the same in the past as a very good boss clearer, but in this case the Monarch is way better. Still extremely suited for Mayhem 10, it can shred any boss in there, it doesn't even matter what it is. You just go in, pop that fade away, and then just pull in the lever and then shoot that Monarch into the target, and it's absolutely going to destroy it in seconds. Moving on to the next category, we have shotguns with another couple of examples. The first one is going to be something that was added a while ago with the Tentacles DLC, but that is the Anarchy Shotgun, which still remains to this day one of the top dogs when it comes to dealing damage, especially since you can stack that damage up to 300% on top of everything else. Now this is going to be a world drop, but the best way to get this, in my experience, is to just go in and farm Tom and Xem, and eventually you are going to get this. It's actually quite a common drop from these two enemies, but literally anything in the Tentacles DLC can drop it. Now this is going to be absolutely amazing for any class in the game, it doesn't really matter. Personally, I had a ton of fun with this, for example with the Ricochet Amara build, since this can also cause those shots to also further ricochet, and when they are all in the millions, yeah, you can pretty much see the results for yourselves, but this also works really amazing on other characters too. So basically it remains the top dog, there's not much to tell about it, outside of the fact that its only downside is the fact that yeah, you're gonna have to throw it, and if you're too close to the explosion you can die, since the damage is again going to be in the millions. The sixth weapon on the list is going to be another shotgun, which is the Reflux. This has also been added with the most recent Revenge of the Cartels update, and it drops from Genevieve in the Voracious Canopy. Now this fully replaced the Brainstormer for me, it just deals absolutely amazing AoE damage, especially against targets that have armor, so yeah, this is going to deal that corrosive damage that changes from one target to another, but it also works very well with a character like Zane, especially if you have that 100% additional cryo damage when you have the Sentinel activated, since it's going to deal that cryo damage on top as well. So absolutely amazing weapon to have, it chains better, it deals more damage than the Brainstormer, and since most of the high-end content in the game is going to feature some of the tougher bosses and enemies with armor on them, like for example the Melee 1 takedown, this is going to be perfectly suited for that. Anyway, you've probably been wondering why haven't I covered pistols yet, as I should have probably started with that category, and the reason for that is because ever since Gearbox has introduced Mayhem 10 and even more so the enemy scaling, some of the very awesome top choices that we had previously kind of fell off, like for example the Maggie, but there's other examples in there as well, like the Lucky 7 and whatnot, but there are a couple of options still even with those weapons, but the one that I've been personally using lately and the one that I found to be personally the best is the Moonfire pistol, another drop from WoW 10 in the Melee 1 takedown. I found this to be quite a good match with the Flak crit build, even when not using the fade away ability. You just have to make sure that you're tapping those headshots so that enemies die in 1 or 2 shots at the very most, and since you're using the Flak crit build, they also ricochet into other heads, so you can take multiple enemies at the same time with this very gory and high damage explosion, which you kind of have to stay away from because you can also die from it. But it does kind of suffer from some really big downsides. One of them is the poor accuracy, and the second one is just the overall handling and the fact that it has some really high recoil, so you have to get used to it to make the proper use out of it, and if you don't hit those headshots, if you constantly miss them, you're not going to end too far with this weapon, so you might better use something else. But if you do and you have like really high skill, you can definitely go in and just like destroy everything with one single tap. The next one is going to be the sniper rifle category, and another one of my personal favorites, since there is one sample over here that is just amazing at destroying any target. This is the Sandhawk assault rifle, one of the drops from Katagawa Jr. Of course, this was also added with the Revenge of the Cartels update, and it just shreds with those 9 high damage projectiles that it shoots. Of course, it does deal that shock damage, which means that shock enemies are going to be immune to it, but whenever I feel that I'm in trouble and I need to kill a target very fast, or if there's a boss that I need to deal huge damage to, this is my go-to weapon. The biggest downside, unfortunately, is the fact that it's a sniper rifle and it also has a low ammo count, which means that you're going to burn through it very fast, and you can like go in and like solo a boss with it or anything, but you can definitely still deal a ton of damage with just the ammo count that you already have. Now, if you want an alternative to this, there is one for the sniper rifle category, which is still that same old Krakatoa that we had in the previous updates as well. Now, if you didn't get your hands on this weapon yet, which I'm not entirely sure who that would be, since this has been added in the game since day 1, 1, but you can get this from the Rampager and it still deals very high damage. It's probably not going to be as irreplaceable as it was before the Revenge of the Cartels update was added in the game, but it still remains a good pick that you can definitely go with and it's not going to disappoint. Finally, we have the last category of heavy weapons, and specifically I'm going to talk about a new addition that was also added with the Revenge of the Cartels update, and that is the Yellow Cake. This is probably my go-to weapon when it comes to just getting myself out of the fight for your life mode, or when trying to like one-shot a boss or an enemy, or when simply trying to rush anything. This just has the highest damage out of all of the weapons in the game, more than 40,000 with the Mayhem 10 version, and if you get like a proper anoint on it, it's going to shred even more. So this is a drop from Joey Ultraviolet or the other mini bosses in the Revenge of the Cartels update. Obviously, since it's so high damage, it can be used on any class, on any build, it doesn't really matter. Probably the only downside is the fact that if you want to truly make the most out of its damage, you kinda have to line up with the enemy to cause the secondary explosion to happen right next to the enemy, so that all of the damage from the initial projectile and the 4 spawning ones will be dealt on that enemy and not miss anything. But even if that's not going to be the case, it still deals very high damage and it's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to keep at some point. Nonetheless, this has been the top 10 list, at the very least when it comes to my picks. Of course, there's other weapons in there that I haven't added on the list for a few reasons, mainly because I already considered that many of you already have them. Like for example, I didn't include the Katzman, even though that's still amazing on Wotan, but I'm assuming that everybody has that at this point, and there's other weapons in there as well that I haven't covered yet. In the meantime, as always, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super awesome. Also, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell, and I will see you guys next time.